Yeah, man. I know it's hard, I know it hurts, and I know that the lack of results hurts more than anything. Because trying, and still not moving forward drains you in a way no one sees. It's not just physical tiredness, it's mental exhaustion. It's emotional weight that builds quietly over time. You wake up, and you already feel behind. You go through the day, but nothing really moves. And when the day ends, you carry the same weight into the next one. That's the part people don't talk about. They talk about success, they talk about discipline, they talk about consistency, but they don't talk about what it feels like when you are doing everything you can and still not seeing anything change. And that's exactly why I'm recording this. Not from a place of arrival, but from a place of process. I'm not speaking from the finish line. I'm speaking from the middle, from the uncertainty, from the confusion, from the pressure of not knowing if what you're doing will ever work, because that's where I am right now, and maybe that's where you are too. There are days when I wake up and I don't feel strong. There are days when I wake up and I don't feel ready. There are days when my mind is heavy before I even start, and I know exactly what I need to do. I know the actions. I know the steps. I know what should be done, but knowing and doing are not always the same thing, because when your mind is tired, everything feels heavier than it actually is. Simple things feel complicated. Small tasks feel overwhelming. And sometimes you just sit there. Not because you don't care, not because you don't want it, but because something inside you isn't responding the way it used to. And that's frustrating, because from the outside, everything looks normal. You're still there, you're still functioning, you're still showing up, but inside you feel stuck, like you're pushing against something invisible. And I've realized something in this process. If you rely only on yourself, you won't last, because your mind is not stable all the time. Your emotions are not consistent. Your energy is not constant. There are days when you feel capable. There are days when you feel completely empty. And if your progress depends only on how you feel in those moments, you will stop. Not because you chose to quit, but because you ran out of internal strength. And that's where most people break. Not in one big moment, but in small, quiet moments. Moments where they just don't have anything left inside. And I've felt that even having a family, even having responsibility, even having people who depend on me, there are days when I look at everything around me and still feel nothing inside. No drive, no clarity, no strength. And that's hard to admit, because people assume that responsibility automatically creates strength, but it doesn't. Sometimes it creates pressure, and when that pressure meets a tired mind, you freeze. And if I depended only on myself, I would have stopped already. Not once, many times. Because there are moments when you simply don't have what it takes. At least, not inside you. And that's when I understood something deeper. You need something beyond yourself. Something that doesn't fluctuate with your emotions. Something that doesn't collapse when your mind gets tired. Something that remains, even when you don't. And for me, that is God. Because there were moments when I had no answers, no clarity, no direction, just silence. And in that silence, the only thing I had was a simple instruction: be strong and very courageous. Not understand everything, not figure it all out, not fix everything now, just be strong, be courageous, and keep going. And sometimes that's all you get. Not a solution, not a clear path, not immediate results. Just direction. Continue, even when it feels pointless, even when it feels slow, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Because what you don't see doesn't mean nothing is happening. And this is where things shift. Because when you stop relying only on your emotions and start anchoring yourself in something greater, you begin to move differently. Not perfectly, not effortlessly, but consistently. Even if it's slow, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it doesn't make sense. And that doesn't mean everything suddenly works. It doesn't mean problems disappear. It doesn't mean you wake up tomorrow and everything is clear. No, you still face the same reality. You still deal with pressure. You still deal with uncertainty. You still deal with days that feel heavy. But something changes inside. You stop collapsing every time your emotions drop. You stop making decisions based only on how you feel. You stop waiting to feel ready. Because the truth is, you will not always feel ready. You will not always feel strong. You will not always feel motivated. But you can still move. Even slowly. Even imperfectly. You can still move. And that's what I'm doing right now. Not because everything is working. Not because I have everything figured out. but because stopping is not an option. Not this time. And if you're watching this, and you feel like nothing is working, if you feel stuck, if you feel like you've been trying and nothing moves, or if you feel like you can't even start, I want you to understand something. You're not alone in this, and more than that, this is not the end. You're in a phase, a difficult one, a confusing one, a heavy one, but still, a phase, and phases don't define who you are. They reveal where you are. So don't build your identity based on a moment of weakness. Don't define yourself by a season of confusion. Don't decide who you are based on what hasn't worked yet, because you were not created to fail. You're being shaped. You're being tested. You're being developed in ways that don't make sense right now. And maybe one day, you'll understand it. Maybe one day it will all connect. But even if it doesn't, you keep going anyway. Because the only way this becomes permanent is if you stop. And we're not doing that, not now. There's something else I've been learning in this process. Growth doesn't always feel like progress sometimes. It feels like resistance. It feels like delay. It feels like nothing is happening. It feels like you're stuck in the same place, repeating the same effort over and over again. But just because you can't see movement doesn't mean there isn't transformation happening underneath. Because not everything changes on the surface first. Some things change in silence. Some things change in your character, in your discipline, in your ability to keep showing up when it doesn't make sense. And those are the things that actually sustain long-term growth, but they're invisible. No one claps for that. No one sees that. No one acknowledges that part. And that's why it feels so heavy, because you're carrying something real, without visible confirmation that it's working. And that's where faith becomes necessary. Not the kind of faith that feels good. Not the kind that is emotional or easy. But the kind of faith that holds you steady when everything around you feels uncertain. The kind that keeps you grounded when your mind starts drifting into doubt. Because your mind will try to convince you of things that are not true. It will show you your past and try to define your future with it. It will take your worst moments and try to turn them into your identity. And if you're not anchored in something greater, you will believe it. That's why this isn't just about discipline. This isn't just about mindset. This is about alignment. Because if your foundation is unstable, everything built on top of it will eventually collapse. And I had to face that. I had to recognize that I was trying to rebuild my life using only my own strength. And that's not enough. It might work for a while. It might get you moving for a season, but eventually you run out. And when you run out, you need something deeper. Something that doesn't depend on your mood. Something that doesn't fluctuate with your results. Something that stays, even when everything else feels like it's falling apart. And that's why I hold on to God. Not because everything is working, not because everything is clear, but because without Him, I wouldn't even be standing. There are days when I don't feel strong, there are days when I don't feel capable, but I don't need to feel strong to keep going. I just need to remain connected, and that changes the way you move. You stop trying to control everything. You stop trying to understand everything immediately, and you start trusting, even when it doesn't make sense. And trust doesn't remove the difficulty, it doesn't eliminate the pressure, it doesn't erase the uncertainty, but it gives you stability in the middle of all of it. And sometimes, that's all you need. Not clarity, not answers, just enough stability to take the next step. Because that's how you rebuild, not with one big decision, but with small steps, consistent steps. Steps taken in days when you don't feel ready, steps taken in moments when you don't feel confident, steps taken even when part of you wants to stop. And over time, those steps accumulate. Not in a way that is obvious at first, but in a way that slowly shifts your reality. And one day you look back, and you realize you didn't stop, and that alone changed everything. So if you're in that place right now where nothing makes sense, where nothing seems to move, where your mind feels heavy, don't overcomplicate it. Don't try to fix everything at once. Just don't stop. Stay connected, stay grounded, stay moving. Even if it's slow, even if it's messy, even if it doesn't look like progress yet. Because this season is not here to destroy you. It's here to build something in you that you can't develop any other way. And if you endure it, if you keep going, not perfectly but faithfully, you won't leave this the same. You'll leave stronger, not louder, not more confident in appearance, but stronger where it actually matters, inside. And that's the kind of strength that doesn't break easily, so keep going, even if it doesn't make sense yet. If this resonates with you, if you feel this, if you're living this, subscribe to the channel. We're not talking about theory here, we're living this in real time. And we're going to get through this together.